here, and thanks to everybody for dialing in this afternoon, and apologies for the very late notice about the call. I have with me on the line Brendan Riley. Most of you know Brendan, he's our Group Executive for Global Enterprise Services. I also have Mike Burgess, who is our Chief Information Security Officer. Brendan's just going to talk to you about an incident that's occurred with Pacnet, our Pacnet corporate network, and he'll run through that incident for you, and then we're very happy to take questions, both Mike and Brendan. So Brendan, I'll pass over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Nicole, and if I could just welcome everyone and say good afternoon, and thanks very much for joining at short notice. Further to Nicole's opening comments, I just wanted to sort of reflect a little bit. We, as you know, announced our intention to acquire Pacnet sort of December last year, and we formally settled on that on the 16th of April. Just after we settled, we were advised by Pacnet that their corporate IT network, so that's the network that Pacnet uses for its email and back of house systems, had experienced a security vulnerability, which had enabled third-party access to their corporate IT network. Pacnet had been working on that matter, both the understanding it and the rectification of it, and as soon as we were advised on that, we also took some immediate action as the new owners of the business to conduct our own detailed assessment of their environment, but to ensure the vulnerabilities were addressed and to put in place additional monitoring and incident response and the sort of things that we do for all of our networks. We set the very, very highest of standards for security in Telstra and for our networks and for our customers. And so what we commenced probably in the early hours of Australian time today is briefings with our customers. And as you know, Pacnet is a global business, so it has customers around the world, informing them of what's happened, and also providing them with more details and an opportunity to raise any concerns with us. The Pacnet corporate IT network is not connected to the Telstra network, so there is no evidence of any activity or issues with our networks here in Australia or around the world. We have had no contact from the perpetrators, so we don't know the reason behind it. We don't know who was involved, and indeed our focus is not on attribution, but really, as we've done, understanding the situation, taking steps to remedy and prevent any further issues, and then communicating with our customers and our employees. Obviously, in the world we live in, maintaining a secure environment is one of the most important things that we can do, not only for our corporate email and back office environment, but also for all of our customer networks. And we won't regale from that. And in the spirit of being an accountable and transparent company, we wanted to brief you personally about what's happened, explain what's happened, what we've done about it, what we're doing about it. So that's probably the briefing from me in a nutshell, Nicole. And I think we can probably open it up for questions, and I'll either answer the question or I might direct some of the questions to Mike if they're of a technical nature.
That's great. Thanks, Brendan. Sam, back to you for questions.
Thank you. Our first question comes from David Ramley from AEST.
Hi there. Sorry for disturbing. Can I just ask, Pacnet's one of the only Western data center providers based in China with actual facilities on the mainland. Is there any indication that this could have been a breach by the Chinese government or a state-led attack?
No, there's not, David. don't have any evidence. We, as I mentioned before, don't know the source of it, and that's really not our focus. Our focus is, as I've indicated, understanding, remedying, and then communicating to our staff and our customers.
Okay, and how long till you get it fixed?
In terms of the networks, they are secure, and we've taken, some additional steps in terms of, monitoring and situation management, as I've indicated to you, so they are secure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Mitchell Benjamin from The Australian.
Mitchell Bingaman, we know that name.
Thanks, guys. I was just wondering, look, why didn't this come up during the due diligence process that Telstra undertook? And why wasn't it disclosed by Pacnet prior to finalisation of the deal?
Yeah, they're good questions, Mitchell. Firstly, on due diligence, the due diligence process, ran obviously from December through till, sort of the February timeframe. The due diligence that we did, you've got to remember that we were still competitors, technically, so the due diligence went as far as it could, and in terms of, detailed, analysis of networks and network operations, it wasn't, one of the things that we're able to do in due diligence. So the due diligence went as far as it could, given that we were still competitors in the market. We were notified as soon as possible after completion, and prior to that, the Pacnet team were managing and dealing with the incident and working on the rectification.
Thanks.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Josh Taylor from ZDNet.
Hi guys, my question's along the same lines as what Mitch was asking. Why, was there anything that Pacnet should have done? Is it something that they should have brought to your attention before the completion of the takeover? Why was it come out? Do you think if the mandatory data breach notification laws might have been in place, that this might have been avoided before the finalising of the takeover?
Yeah, Josh, it happened a couple of weeks before completion, and obviously, Pacnet were managing with it and dealing with it, and we were notified after. I think I would say, I think it would have been good to know about it prior to completion, but they were managing it with it, and they were dealing with it. So from their perspective, they felt they were absolutely, doing the right thing, and as soon as, completion occurred, then we were advised of it.
Are you expecting, fallout from this? Are you expecting, leak of personal information or confidential information as well?
Well, look, we're certainly, in terms of all of the, work that we've done, we're confident that the environment's secure. We haven't, so far in terms of all the investigations and discussions with customers and staff, we haven't uncovered anything, untoward. But I think we just have to be very open that's still a possibility, and we need to be ready to deal with that. And certainly anything we get from our customers, we will.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Graham Phillipson from CommsWire.
Hi, Brendan. Hi, everybody. You said the settlement occurred on the closure of the deal with Pacnet on the 16th of April. That's a month ago. You also said that this had happened before then. Why has it taken another month for you to notify your customers and to go public on this?
Graham, we obviously wasn't an environment that was completely familiar to us, the Pacnet environment. So we wanted to get in, understand the situation, make sure that we've taken all the rectification steps that we've undertaken, and now we've commenced that communication. I think, Graham, if we could have done it faster, I think it would have been better to do it faster. But I believe we've moved as fast as we can in terms of everything we need to be ready to do, not only customers, employees, but also regulators in different markets.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Our next question comes from David Sinclair from Bloomberg.
Hi there. It sort of relates to that last question. So when was the vulnerability actually rectified? At which point was that done?
Mike, have you got the specifics on that? It was a couple of weeks prior to settlement. Is the information that I have.
No. When was it rectified?
When was it rectified? Yeah.
Yeah, Mike Burgess here, I can answer that one. So the Pacnet team had rectified it in early April, 3rd of April.
Right. So it was immediately rectified, and so I'm still trying to understand if the vulnerability was rectified. What's been why have you waited till this date? It's not been about not wanting to announce your vulnerability to the public.
So that's a good question. So what they dealt with and rectified at that time was one instance of the activity. When we were informed of it, we looked at the network and we looked at it from a different, broader perspective, and we decided there were grounds to investigate not just the instance they were dealing with. That led us to this 4-week effort to fully understand what had happened on that network.
Right.
Obviously got to this point, we realised what had happened, and that's why we're informing our customers.
Okay, so essentially the vulnerability's been closed since April the 3rd, but you've just been poking around trying to work out if there were any other ramifications.
So we've poked around and we've taken other steps, including putting in place additional monitoring capabilities and incident response capabilities, so we can assure the customer data is safe on that network now.
Okay. Is there any sign that Pacnet and I guess now Telstra customer data has been accessed, and how many customers may have been affected?
Sorry. So at this stage we have no evidence that data has been taken from the network, but because of the nature of the access and the vulnerability, we wanted to inform our customers.
Okay. And how many customers are we talking about?
We're not going to talk about how many customers at this stage.
Okay.
I think in terms of numbers of customers, I think in some of the early announcements, you got a sense of the Pacnet customer base, which is certainly in the thousands. But in relation to this incident, we're sort of not breaking it down.
Okay. And I know about Pacnet, but who are the major customers? What are the types of businesses that are the main customers?
Well, I think we're probably not going to go and break it down into the different types of customers, but you can expect that they're small, medium, large business, global customers, and government entities. So it's I guess the categories that you would expect from an enterprise, network and services provider.
Okay, excellent. One last thing, the AFP got involved in this at this stage? The federal police, or?
Well, we're informing, the regulators, and I'd have to check with Mike. I don't think we needed to do that, given there haven't been any issues in Australia. There hasn't been any impact on the network. It's not connected. No impact to anyone here. So I'm not sure we needed to have done that. I don't think we have done that. So
okay.
Yeah, sorry, Brent. That is correct. We didn't have to inform the AFP from a law enforcement or regulatory point of view, but actually AFP have been informed from a customer.
Okay, yeah. And does that apply as well? Was it Hong Kong Pacnet was previously registered in? Was there any contact there with regulators or police? But before the transaction completed, as it were?
don't know the answer to that, but definitely we are taking steps. Yesterday, today, to notify regulators in the markets that Pacnet operates.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is Jeff Wally from here on Sun.
Is that Jeff Wally? Sorry, it was a little bit hard to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, I couldn't hear either. Hi, guys. I was just interested as following up on what Dave was saying. How much have you actually been able to quantify what was accessed? Like, are you able to quantify it, and it's simply something you're not revealing at the moment, or is it just impossible for you to tell?
Why don't I ask Mike to answer that one? You go.
Sorry, friend. So we have not been able to tell from forensic information or system logs what has been taken from the network, but given the nature of the incident as we informed ourselves of what had happened, it is clear that they had complete access to the corporate network, and that's why we're telling customers.
And back to, I suppose, one of the core questions that everyone's interested in. Basically, are you satisfied you were told soon enough? Like, would you have had recourse given the late revelation? I'd imagine there would have been things in place for you to reconsider, and would you have reconsidered given the size of the incident?
Well, look, I think that's a hypothetical. What I can say is that, what I did say before, it would have been good to know about it a little earlier, but Pacnet felt that they were dealing with the incident, and they informed us upon completion. I don't think it changes the deal for us, Jeff. I still think it's a very, very exciting acquisition that we've made, and I think that's been reinforced with all of the communication we've had with customers. Well,
are you convinced you've been told everything now?
Yes.
And is there any sense of, do you think you'll ever find out who it actually was?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know if you've got anything further to add, Mike. I don't think so.
No, I don't believe so. Obviously, as we inform customers, we'll be sharing what information we have with them. If someone else can draw their own conclusions, that's good for the customer, but I don't think so, like Brendan says.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you. Our next question comes from David Ramley from AFR.
Hi, sorry for hogging it. Can I just find out, just to clarify, does this mean, given that reputation is so important in the ICT industry, you don't believe the $697 million price tag changes at all on the basis of this tap?
Well, the deal stands, David, and it's completed, so the deal is done. I think with any, how M&A transactions work, with any M&A, transaction, there's normally a provision for, items that are discovered or become clearer for you to go back and have a conversation with the vendors. I certainly think this, probably will fall into one of those, but that is not, really occupying, our primary focus, at the moment, and that's, communicating with our customers and our staff and also briefing it.
And just in terms of, did I hear you incorrectly, or did you say the AFP had been notified as a customer?
That's correct.
So does that mean their data at any point could have been vulnerable?
So we've told all our customers, or in the process of informing all our customers, what's happened on the Pacnet corporate network. We have no evidence that data has been taken, but we wish to inform them because of the nature of the breach.
So were these Australian customers users of Pacnet beforehand?
That's correct.
Okay. Were there any other major customers that we should know about? I mean, Australian government, for example?
Well, look, I think I don't want to get into, David, I don't want to get into a detailed breakdown of, who the customers were, and I think there was a specific customer question about AEST, which which we've answered. But I don't really want to get into a detailed breakdown of who all the customers are.
And we don't know if any of their data has in fact been taken off the network.
Well, I think we can only, repeat the answer that we've already given on that.
Sorry, I stepped out for a moment. Do you mind repeating it again? I'm really sorry for that.
Mike, you answered that before, so why don't I let you, repeat that answer before, just from a consistency perspective.
Yeah, certainly. So we have no evidence that data was taken from the Pacnet corporate network, but because of the nature of the breach, we thought it was important that we inform all customers of this so they can make their own informed decisions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Claire Riley from CNET.
Thanks, guys. You'll have to excuse me, I came a little late into this conference call, so I apologise if this has been covered. But you mentioned the customers being affected as small, medium, large businesses, government entities. Do you have any evidence that this is affecting any of your sort of traditional retail customers, anyone that is more of a consumer rather than an enterprise customer?
No, we don't.
And just further to that, I may get the same response as David here, but when you say government entities, do you have evidence or is any division of Australian state or federal government one of these customers that could have been affected?
Well, I think we've spoken about one, but I mean, Pacnet has government customers, but we're not going to go and, as I just sort of said to David, we're not going to go and sort of break that down. But yes, there are government customers.
And by that you mean Australian?
Pacnet has government customers.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Stephen Kiernan from CRN.
Hi. I just wanted a couple of quick clarifications. Just on the timeline, is it accurate to say that the vulnerability was rectified by Pacnet on the 3rd of April and Telstra was advised just after the sale closed on the 16th of April? Is that the timeline we're talking about here?
That's right.
Yeah. And also, you've said a couple of times that there's no evidence that data has been taken from the Pacnet network, but can we equally flip that around and say that there's no evidence that it hasn't been taken? I mean, that you don't know one way or the other as to whether any data's been leaked?
Yeah, there's no evidence, and we've been informing our customers so they can make their own conclusions. And yes, it is possible, but we certainly don't have any facts to suggest that is the case.
And look, one more question. I just wondered, what does this say about Pacnet's security posture? I mean, you had a good look now. Was it weak? Could they have done more to avoid this happening?
Well, clearly there was a vulnerability, so that says that it needed to be improved. I think that will be a fair conclusion on any vulnerability, and we've certainly, given our review, taken additional steps which we have already employed in our own capabilities to get that environment up to an even higher standard.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question comes from David Fickling from Blackbird.
Oh, hi guys, you've been very generous. One last thing I was wondering, without sort of wanting to show too much, now that this vulnerability has been addressed now, can you give us any sort of colour about what exactly the vulnerability was, what the breach was?
I think I might ask Mike to answer that. He can probably give a little bit more technical detail. And I just should also add, I think this will probably have to be the last question.
Yeah.
Because we're going to go from Australian media to talk to the Asian media. So I'll let Mike ask that, and I'll pass back to Nick to round off.
Thanks.
Okay, so the initial compromise that Pacnet dealt with was associated with an SQL injection vulnerability on a web application server, and the perpetrator used that to drop malicious code onto a server and kept moved around from that point.
And sorry, just the last bit, an attempt to what from that point?
Move around from that point, which is standard things that any person doing that type of activity would do. So look to find the vulnerability, exploit it, and then move on from there.
Okay. Thank you.
David. Okay, look, thanks everyone. Appreciate you coming on at the last minute. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to give me a call. And we very much appreciate your time. So thank you very much.